Alright everyone, we start off today with a shout out actually to Eric. I don't know if he wants me to use his full name. He sent me this shirt from mankissesflag.com. There are various shirts and stuff available there. I think that these are his original prints that he's made artistically, so I'll give him a shout out for the free shirt. Thank you, my man. Clank on. Link, I'll pin it at the top in the comments. Leftists right now are angry, specifically Eric Adams. He's the Democratic, far-left Democratic mayor of New York City, incoming there. And they've got a problem. Well, New York City has a lot of problems, but they've got one big glaring problem now that they could never have foreseen as a sanctuary city. They opened themselves up to a sad situation in which they're now experiencing a five-figure sum of illegals entering the city every single month. And it has completely overrun their system. So the efforts of some of the southern governors and other people, activists, are paying off. This is what should happen. Every sanctuary city and state should be made to take all of the illegals in that are coming across the border. Every single one of them should be located in one of those states or cities. You made it clear through public policy and through your voting patterns that you had no problem with the southern border being effectively unguarded. Why should the southern states be the only ones that have to take people in? It's logistically impossible for 4 states to encompass all of the illegals coming into the country. There are already several millions of people down there that are. Why should... the thing is, here's what happened. New York City liberals, the NIMBYs there, said on paper ideologically, we want, a land with no countries, everyone as one, and John Lennon-esque sort of stuff. But that's before they experienced that problem. There were some illegals in New York City. A lot of times it's Eastern European enclaves. Well, they blend in maybe a little bit more. They're part of New York City's culture. But we don't want those dirty people from down there. That's basically the NIMBYist mentality, it seems, of a lot of people in New York City and outlying areas. Once they start filtering out into the more wealthy suburbs near New York City proper, it becomes a big problem. How dare Greg Abbott or Ron DeSantis, we'll give them credit where credit's due, how dare they bus or fly in people from the southern border or from the coasts of Florida? They're not allowed to be in Martha's Vineyard. They're not allowed to be here north of the Mason-Dixon line. This is a southern problem. You're the border states. You handle it. Your taxpayers can be crippled underfoot. Now, here's the thing. New York City is a city of over 10 million people. It's a massive money sponge that soaks up a huge amount of revenue from the rest of New York State and lords over it politically. If you've ever been through New York State, you'll find basically that there are 2 highly liberal enclaves in the entire state. New York City, and the outlying areas, of course, and the Troy-Albany district, the capital. Outside of that, it's Bumpkinville. Go up into the Catskills sometime. It's more rednecky than the center of Vermont, like Bridgewater or something like that. It looks like a Fleetwood Mac music video. It's farms and shit. You go to the western side. It's basically Rust Belt, the area around Rochester, etc. You go to the areas in between New York City and Troy. It's all a bunch of mountains and farms and stuff. It's Farmville. It's not really that different from Vermont or New Hampshire, and it's kind of New Englandish until you get down into New York City, unless you happen to be in the little area that encompasses the greater Albany district. Those 2 districts soak up all the money from the taxpayers and make the policy for the state. Eric Adams now comes out and says, New York City is going to be destroyed at this rate. Well, what do you think's happening to the people on the southern border? There ain't no New York City down in the Rio Grande Valley. McAllen's a pretty good-sized city, but it's not New York City. It doesn't have your kind of money. It doesn't have your population or your institutions or your infrastructure. You're asking them to house 10,000 more people every month instead of you pulling your weight? You're a sanctuary city in a sanctuary state. Do your job. To the people of New York, and I sympathize with people that don't live in New York City or the Albany area and have to deal with this shit because it's filtering out across the state at proper. It's funny, they'll shuttle them around internally to areas outside of their enclaves, and that's perfectly acceptable. But if another state does that to them, all of a sudden it's human rights abuse or something like that. They're getting a free bus ticket. You've promised them shelter. You've promised them food. You've promised them job training, and, we won't deport you or cooperate with ICE or anything like that. What the hell do you expect? Yeah, really what it boils down to is that people like Abbott have gotten wise to the grift, and they've decided to finally do something about it because the federal government won't. New York City is Sanctuaryville. Oh, you have 100,000 illegals in the city of New York? Well, I'm so sorry about that. I'm sorry that you have to live among those folks that should stay. You want them in the country, but you don't want them in your state. You don't want them in your city. NIMBY liberalism, by the way, to people of all non-white colors, the legendary mythological BIPOC community that the Democrats have spawned in their idpol craziness. They don't care about you. You realize that it's a bunch of rich white liberals that control their political party. Again, look at what's happening in New York City. Okay, yeah, the mayor happens to be black, but he's a left-wing Democrat. And look at the policies. Whining, basically. Now, even funnier is that Eric Adams effectively throws Biden under the bus. Yes, Joe Biden has an unlikely enemy right now in the far-left mayor, a member of his own party, of fucking New York City. Well, Joe Biden's not giving us any help with this problem. He's not addressing it. He won't even take my phone calls. Well, you're both to blame. Biden's to blame because, technically, I know that he's the steward. He's basically just a political puppet. He's not really making the decision. He doesn't call his own shots or anything. Joe Biden is, at least on paper, responsible for the U.S. border. Has repeatedly stood in the way of southern states attempting to shore up the border on their own, and indeed his administration has sued Texas on several occasions at this point. They've also investigated Florida for the Martha's Vineyard incident. That's because Obama has a mansion in Martha's Vineyard. And so they don't want those people there. They were there for a fat 24 hours, and already people were complaining, well, it's been fun meeting a real, genuine, illegal immigrant from Guatemala. I really enjoyed giving you, boysenberry sauce and beef Wellington and shit like that. But now it's probably time for you to move on to your place. It's not here with us here in Martha's Vineyard. The hypocrisy was sheer. You're telling me that a city as powerful as New York City with such a vast population and so many resources because of the huge amount of tax revenue there, because high tax, high property prices, you're telling me that you can't house 100,000 people? Well, where else are they supposed to go? Seems like a lot of them are going to Rutland, actually. My hometown is being absolutely decimated at the moment, and when I get back there, I don't expect it to be a very fun time, honestly. I expect to look for greener pastures in a state that actually knows how to get its own fiscal house in order. Vermont ain't the one. So New York City is even more dysfunctional. You call openly, and you vote for people who call openly, to keep the border open. Come all ye faithful, give us your tired, huddled, poor masses. But then you don't want those huddled masses in the city that actually bears the Statue of Liberty. What a bunch of hypocritical, NIMBYistic horseshit. What they want is for those individuals to have a tent or government-funded housing elsewhere. Oh, it's NIMBYism. They want addiction treatment centers, but not on their block. They want a wind farm, but not on the rise that overlooks their second home. It's the same shit, different asshole for a million different issues. They want an environmental initiative, and they're willing to pay a little bit for it, but don't ask them to plant a tree. It's NIMBYism. They wouldn't pick up trash in their own neighborhood. They expect other people not to litter, though, and they expect a strongly worded ordinance with regards to that. It's the same thing from NIMBYists time immemorial. It's not just Democrats that act that way, but boy, oh boy, are you trying to corner the market right now. Again, the Dem mayor of New York City complaining about the migrant crisis. You don't even have to deal with the border because New York City ain't on the border. So, you just think about how bad the people of Texas have it. But you don't care about that. That's the place where those folks belong now, isn't it? That's about all. Peace out.